So how can RLT help folk who are non-binary or not informing? First, RLT recognizes that the root of trauma is in disconnection. Um, and as we work with folk who are non-binary, we help them to get a sense of themselves, and grow compassion and name the pain of that, of their identity being ignored, dismissed, or punished, instead of pathologizing somebody and making them wrong for who they are. We ask, what happened to you? And how did you survive not being accepted for who you are? What, what was your relationships around you like that impacted not only um, how you feel about yourself, but also your relationships? RLT is based on the fundamental principle that we are all uh, deeply worthy of love and cherishing. And so we support you to create a level of intimacy towards yourself where you're curious, compassionate, and celebrating who you are. The next thing that we look at is challenging this patriarchal blueprint of this binary of masculine and feminine, where we ask that people reject these rigid gender roles of masculine and feminine and look at the impact of that toxic masculinity or the overfunctioning emotional and mental labor of the feminine, and get into a healthy dynamic in relationships, whether it's monogamous or a relationship group where there is power sharing, a teamwork, mutuality, with authentic connection, vulnerability, beyond any gender expectation, where everybody is worthy and valuable for who they are. And that's why a lot of people come to this work, because it validates their experience of how harmful patriarchy is for all genders. The next is this fierce loving. Terry wrote a book called Fierce Intimacy. You can get the book on Audible. It's really beautiful, where it encourages this honest, loving truth telling. It's not a harsh truth telling that comes down on somebody, or quietly avoiding the truth. It's really being real with ourselves. And it's truly empowering for non-binary folk who've been trained to silence themselves to stay safe. We help you to create a safety in your relationship where you can find your voice, where we champion your worth, and call out the internalized shame and oppression, and help you find your voice so that you can take up space and be who you are. The next thing that we help folk who are non-binary with RLT is creating healthy relationship dynamics. For folk who've been shut down, ignored, shamed, there's a lot of relational trauma that you experienced as a child in workplace and even in therapy spaces. So what RLT does is help you to set boundaries without guilt, how to repair ruptures, and to share your pain so that things can be resolved with clarity, with love, and deep compassion. It helps you to work through what your identity roles are, whether that's overfunctioning, collapsing, blaming, and other defenses that came from your coping mechanisms in childhood. We help you to grow this connection to that little inner child that was so confused that now comes out in reactivity or shutdown, and help you to take care of yourself in a way that possibly nobody took care of you before. And we help you to shift from an adaptive child response where you're defensive into a really empowered, healthy adult relating. So, you know, what RLT is about a whole person work, where it's not just looking at you as an issue or a problem to be fixed. It looks at the whole person, your history, how your defenses, your strengths, your pain, your desire for intimacy. And so often for non-binary folk, you're just reduced to your gender identity. And RLT helps to expand a fuller picture, where beyond this gender identity, into helping you go beyond the misunderstandings and reduction into a depth of growing those healthy, loving, connected relationships. And part of that work comes from us as a therapist being really authentic. As a therapist in RLT, we're not a blank slate. So if you're wondering about working with somebody and it's not me, and it's any RLT therapist, one of the things that we work with in RLT is being vulnerable and real. So you don't get a therapist who's just a blank slate, which makes things safer for somebody who is non-binary, because you can ask us, who did you vote for? If you've got a therapist who voted for Trump, they didn't have your back. They didn't care about your safety. And so knowing that an RLT therapist is not just a blank slate. We are vulnerable and authentic. You can ask us, and our mission is to support you in having a trusting, safe relationship. And that's one of the things that I encourage people to do, is ask your therapist, who did they vote for? Because then straight away you can know from the outset if you may be harmed in a more clinical or hierarchical therapy setting, which is not healthy for you. It's going to repeat the patterns of the past, where you were judged or shamed for who you are, or told to be fixed or go to conversion therapy. RLT, the whole work with us as a therapist, is teaching us to be real and humble and human. And in knowing that that's who we're going to be, it helps you to show up and have the same experience. So you can feel a sense of belonging and care in a therapy room, or I only work online, so over on Zoom. So if you're wanting a therapy that holds the fullness of gender diversity with deep compassion, where there's a space for truth telling, where you can balance power and learn how to advocate for yourself and find the courage to truly love and be cherished for who you are. This is beautiful, affirming, and reparative work for folk who are non-binary, trans. So yeah, I really suggest you check out RLT. You're welcome to contact me or find another RLT therapist. All right. So that comes to the end of my little videos on the impact of patriarchy on men, women, and non-boundary folk. At the bottom, you'll be able to see a link to doing therapy with me. If you'd like to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. All right, sending you love.